Super Smash Bros., a necessity for gracious living.
Over the last couple of decades, the Smash Bros. Franchise has gone from strength to strength, starting life as a novel crossover and morphing into one of Nintendo's most important franchises in its own right. Smash Bros. Is now the best-selling fighting game series of all time, even topping the mighty Street Fighter, and has been turning heads since the days of the Nintendo 64. Debuting when the 3D polygonal era of gaming was in full swing means the first couple of generations of Nintendo hardware does not have Smash Bros. Games to call their own. Gamers' imaginations ran wild with what the series would have looked like on more rudimentary hardware. Some have gone simply beyond imagining this and have instead gone on to create Smash fan projects with art directions of old. One ambitious title, for example, would be designed to replicate the Game Boy's 8-bit green monochrome style. In this case, I feel that visuals probably speak more than words, so let's kick things off by looking at the epic trailer for this game. Yes, my decadent ones, your eyes are not deceiving you, and indeed an epic 8-bit monochrome Game Boy inspired demake of Super Smash Bros. Exists for all to play and experience. So within this content we will look back at the unique development story behind this game and what precisely this quirky release brings to the table. So without further ado,
I am Lady Decade and this is the story of Super Smash Land, a Game Boy style demake.
To start today's tale, we must take ourselves back to the dawn of the 2010s. This is obviously the pre-Nintendo Switch era and a period when Nintendo still had a separate home console and handheld systems. In fact, at this moment in time, their hardware install base was beyond insane. Their most popular game console, the Nintendo Wii, is their current gen system, and the most popular handheld of all time, the Nintendo DS, being their current handheld. As you can see, the company had two systems on the market simultaneously, both printing money, with each device offering very different features and completely unique libraries of games. Back then, this would make us ponder a lot of different questions, such as what would a full-blown Pokemon game be like on a home console, or what would Superman 64 be like on the Nintendo DS? But of course, one of the biggest questions of all though was what would a handheld Smash Bros game be like? Of course, we would finally receive the answer to this question in September of 2014 with Super Smash Bros for the Nintendo 3DS. In 2011, Nintendo handheld fans tried to answer this question by creating Super Smash Land. This brings us to a young lad at the time known as Dan Fornace, an ambitious individual who began working on this project while he was still just in college. Dan had decided that he wanted to challenge himself by creating a simple homebrew title that was simple in scope but made homage to something he already loved. Being a long-term fan of the Super Smash Bros. Series and an appreciator of old-school Game Boy aesthetics, Dan chose to begin creating a game that would attempt to replicate Smash Bros. Simple yet deep gameplay, but in the style of an 8-bit 4-colour Game Boy game.
Challenging.
In the earlier stages, he would create a simple mock-up that would incorporate these ideas together, resulting in a demo that his friends would enjoy so much that his heart would become set on developing it into a complete game. As for the development of this game, Dan would handle all the other elements on his own, working tirelessly for 6 months to make the game he had previously envisioned. To get the word out, a significant chunk of time was also spent editing the game's flashy trailer, which I showed off earlier in this video, a great little promotional piece designed to grab prospective players' attention. The free-to-play PC game was available to enjoy as of 2011, and what an imprint this title would leave on gamers' minds for those that have gotten around to experiencing it. So obviously up until this point we have talked about the concept behind this game, but what exactly did it manage to deliver to faithfully create an 8-bit style monochromatic Smash Bros experience?
Let's discuss.
Obviously, being a fan game with gameplay created from scratch by just one man, the title offers a small but humble selection of fighters. Upon powering this game on for the first time, gamers can take control of Smash Bros. Nintendo 64 originals, Mario, Kirby, Link, and Pikachu, arguably the 4 most popular fighters from the original 12 who appeared in the first ever game. Intriguingly, the game instantly will grab gamers' attention by indicating that there are 2 other fighters that players must unlock, who we shall get to soon. This stylistic, almost hipster demake of Super Smash Bros. Is not only created to look strikingly like a Game Boy game, but has also been engineered to play the same way. To control the action in this game, players can only utilise 4 direction keys to emulate a D-pad, and 2 action buttons to imitate the functionalities of the A and B buttons. Directional keys are obviously used for movement, with one button assigned to jumping and the other to attack. Various moves can be performed by combining directional taps with the attack button, delivering a surprisingly fun and intuitive control scheme that is simple to get to grips with.
The title functions surprisingly Smash-like for something so Game Boy-esque.
Clearly, a lot of love and care was put into this game, with the title's impressive 11 different stages to battle being reflective of this. These stages that mostly pay homage to classic Nintendo games replicate the likes of Hyrule Castle, Wispy Woods, Princess Peach's Castle and Saffron City, offering a ton of nods to not just Smash Bros history, but Nintendo history overall. Speaking of these beautiful stages, plenty of nice touches are mixed in. For example, Wispy Woods is equipped with the wind mechanic, much like in other games, and Saffron City sees other Pokemon pop-ups such as Chansey, Venusaur and Electrode. In fact, it's not just Smash Bros. Of old that the game imitates either, as Dan Fornace tried his hand at creating some unique fighting stages for this game, such as Lavender Town, which features ghost Pokemon carrying platforms. Another example is a new Majora's Mask stage that depicts the iconic Clock Town and even that nightmare-inducing moon staring ominously down at the battleground. Even more interestingly, as highlighted in the trailer at the start of this video, the game features a Tower of Heaven themed stage, with the Tower of Heaven being another monochromatic Game Boy inspired indie title which has further links to this game, which we shall touch upon shortly. Now, I guess it is worth speaking about the unlockable characters that this title has on offer. One of these is Megaman, which is made all the more interesting considering that this game came out several years before Mega Man's official Smash Bros debut. Megaman even comes with his own Dr. Wily stage, which looks strikingly like the level that would officially pop up in Smash Bros down the line too. In some ways, this game offers demakes of stages and characters that did not exist in Smash yet, but would do in the future. How Mega Man does differ though from his later official incarnation is by delivering quite a different arsenal of moves to that which would be associated with his moveset, which is interesting to see.
Man, how mega.
Lastly, in the character department, Dan Fornace decided to include a playable character in the game which is yet to be picked for Smash, and one which I doubt likely ever will be chosen. I am talking about none other than Vaporeon, the water-type Eevee evolution, who was one of the original 150 Pokemon. A staple part of Vaporeon's attacks is his neutral attack, a water gun which inventively leaves a puddle of water on solid ground. Using its up ground or up air attack will cause Vaporeon to warp to said puddle, allowing it to innovatively strike an unsuspecting opponent or recover in otherwise impossible situations, overall making Vaporeon a unique and fresh character within the game indeed. 3 different play modes can be experienced throughout a playthrough, the first of which is an arcade mode. This, as expected, plays very much like the original game modes found in the Nintendo game. Players go from stage to stage through a gauntlet of challenges. The first stage in this mode consists of a one-on-one battle, followed by stage 2 with another one-on-one fight. Stage 3 introduces another Smash Bros trope where players get to face off against a large team of opponents. In this game's case, a pack of either 20 Kirbys or 20 Pikachus. Stage 4 sees players in another one-on-one encounter, with the final stage introducing players to the mode's final opponent, Megaman, which functions as this character's first in-game appearance. Megaman is certainly tougher than any fighters players would have come up against already, holding 2 lives and more intelligent movement than previous adversaries. Defeating the Blue Bomber allows games to add him to their selectable roster of fighters.
A mega unlockable in my opinion.
The game also offers an endless mode that presents exactly what it says on the tin, a fight against an endless slew of opponents until gamers are finally KO'd on this final battlefield themed stage. How long can you survive facing off against 3 silhouetted opponents simultaneously? Lastly, the game features a versus mode, where gamers can manually select which Smash Bros character they want to face off against, choosing to have between 1 and 3 opponents to fight on the stage at any time. All of this wholesome fun is laced perfectly with the game's music, with much of the game's sounds and music being placed in the capable hands of Brendan Becker, a man known in the music world under the title of Inverse Space. Early into the game's development, Fornace intended to construct the entire game alone, and with little knowledge of composing music, looked to port over tracks and sound effects from existing Game Boy video games. As the vision for the final product got bigger and bigger, Fornace realised that the game needed a soundtrack and feel of its very own, so he would commission Brendan to write new musical arrangements and sound effects for the title. Ending up a taller task than intended, a musical artist named Flashy Goodness would be brought on board with the project, who would mainly be tasked with creating tracks for most of the hidden stages. Flashy Goodness was the person who had composed music for a retro Game Boy inspired game previously. Of course, Tower of Heaven. Having Mr. Goodness work on both projects married up the 2 games further, making the nod to this fellow modern monochromatic game within Super Smash Land all the more poignant.
Fantastic.
Speaking of the game's music, I cannot praise it enough really. The game is chock full of earworms, made up of many rearrangements of classic Nintendo tracks. The entire soundtrack fits the look and theme of the game perfectly, complementing the graphical style to help create a more authentic Smash Bros. Game Boy-like experience. Players at home are bound to find joy in Super Smash Land, a game that is bound to tantalise the nostalgia taste buds, triggering many mustachioed memories of Nintendo days gone by. Overall, the game is great fun, and the title offers a faithful recreation of what you would imagine Smash for Game Boy may have been like. Smashland's great art style, great gameplay and music are enough to capture any Nintendo gamer's attention. To date, the Super Smash Land title has been downloaded and played over 500,000 times, with the game still being available to download and play for free via visiting SuperSmashLand.com. While these fan projects may seem like cashless, fruitless endeavours to some, Dan Fornace would prove all wrong with his work. Following the release of this game, he would be appointed as a lead designer at the Microsoft Studio site of Killer Instinct Season 1.
Ultra Combo!
The next chapter of the Super Smash Land series, though, would occur in April 2014, with Daniel leaving Microsoft to make a new independent game titled Rivals of Aether, a game published on the Xbox One in 2017 and later on the Nintendo Switch in 2020. The game would function as the spiritual sequel to Super Smash Land and would once again be a title that was mechanically inspired by Super Smash Bros. The game was released to rave reviews, with critics everywhere seemingly loving this game. Rivals of Aether is living, breathing proof that dabbling with and making Nintendo fan games can give creators much needed experience in becoming more well-rounded developers and grabbing employers and investors' attention to do official projects down the line. If this young man had not decided to create an 8-bit monochromatic Smash Bros, there would likely be no Rivals of Aether. Even Nintendo themselves are making a healthy profit from that today, considering the title is now available on the Nintendo Switch. We need some Rivals of Aether references in official Smash Bros games, and we have gone full circle here. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe and comment your thoughts down below, and you may want to check out my recent upload on the Super Mario Odyssey NES style demake. See you soon.